so you can ask questions as we're going. We're about ready to get started. All right, we are going to record. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Andy Arnott with
Amy Weiss.
And this is Seller Roundtable number 127. We're super excited to have Pearl Ausch on today. Pearl, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be with you guys. I've been looking forward to this one for some time. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Well, we're stoked to have you, Pearl. And, you know, it's a really interesting topic because it's at a time when today we're talking about shipping our products into all the different types of international marketplaces that Amazon offers. And Amazon is opening new marketplaces in so many different countries. I think I just heard of one recently, another one in the Middle East, as well as a few other ones. They just opened Brazil. I mean, there's little marketplaces that eventually will become big marketplaces happening all over the place. And so if I want to take advantage of moving my products into some of these other marketplaces, I really need to, know how to get my products over there. So it's great to have you on the show and to help people start thinking about, moving their products and how that's done. But before we get into that, we like our first question to always be for you to tell us a little bit more about you. As much or as little as you like. Andy always, leaves it up to you if you want to provide a blood sample. But tell us about you and how you got here.
Great question. So again, my name is Pearl. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Can't get better than that. Literally where all the hype is. We're officially, they say, the biggest Amazon sellers live. There's like that little rumor going around, but I could say that there's a lot of truth to that. There are some big high rollers that are coming out of this zip code that know what they're doing on Amazon. So it's great. It's great to be here where people know what they're doing. So basically, I'm in this industry for about 8 years now. I'm with First Choice Shipping for that time. First Choice Shipping started about 12 years ago. Funny enough, the way this whole thing happened, I used to work for like this car leasing company. What a nightmare of a job. I can't even explain that enough. Like I literally worked out of like a trailer. And every time I had anybody come visit me, like my sisters loved coming to visit like their cool sister that was working, and like I'm the oldest in the family. So it was like the first sister that's actually working. And they came to visit me and they thought it was like, what is this? Like the place smelled absolutely awful. And they were on my case. You got to find a new job. Like you must. And you know how it is when, you got to change a job and learn new things and get trained and everything. And I was lazy and I was just not having it. One day my husband decided he's going to go through the classifieds and he's going to put in an application for me. And without me knowing, Saul, our CEO, actually made a phone call. And he's like, oh, I saw your resume. Would you like to come down for an interview? I had no clue. This came out of left field, like totally. I'm like texting my husband, like, did you put something in that? I don't know whatever the case is. Fast forward, I actually started out here as a customer service rep. And right now, with all that we've done and grown, thank God, I'm actually the chief operating officer here. So I love what I do. Personally, I have 3 kids, a 9-year-old son like Andy. Actually, Andy said your son is almost 9. A 4-year-old daughter and an almost 2-year-old daughter. So they're why I do what I do. And I love what I do. And yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
Awesome. And so is this how you learned about Amazon and about e-commerce by getting this job?
It's a good question. So actually we used to have a gift basket business. So we literally put together for Hanukkah these like baskets with chocolate and nuts and candy, and for Christmas, and then we did a little bit for Valentine's. And we decided we're going to sell it on Amazon, me and my husband. And we did pretty well, to be honest. But then, with the PPC changes and then the overhead, and there was so much going on, we ended up selling the company. And that's how we learned, what are the supply chain issues people really face, and what are the the struggles that they have when it comes to inventory, because that was like a huge issue that we had, that our inventory didn't get into Amazon fast enough for like the last Christmas that we did. And that was just like, that was the last step we did before we said, okay, this is it. Like, this is not meant for us. Next phase in our lives. So I did that while I was doing the car leasing as well. But my husband Ephraim, which he's from Tactical Logistics, you guys might know him, but basically he was one that was running it full time. So we really got to know what it's like to be an Amazon seller, and the glory, beautiful things people say around it. Like, there's so much hard work that really goes into it. So like, mad respect for everybody that is killing it out there, because I know it's way harder now than it was for us like 7-8 years ago. So yeah, that was, my a little bit background that I had when it came to Amazon. We did that for about 3 years. So yeah, now we're doing the logistics for Amazon.
I love that you at least have some experience. I think service providers that that don't have any experience as sellers themselves, it just does make it very difficult for them to understand kind of all those things that you talked about, dealing with cash flow and inventory and everything else. Like, they're real struggles. And of course, there's the glamour and all the revenue screenshots and the sales and all of that, and the passive income, that kind of stuff. But it really is a full-time job, and it's hard. And it's not easy. And so I love that you have that experience, and you know firsthand that logistics is just one part of a bigger puzzle, and that you can kind of identify with some of those pain points.
Absolutely.
So that being said, First Choice Shipping, this company that you work for now, that you're COO for, you guys help people move their products from the US into international marketplaces. What are the most popular marketplaces that people ship to?
So great question. So I think that, COVID taught a lesson to a lot of business owners, and now like international selling became like the hottest thing. And like, the aggregators love it when they hear you have a presence internationally. It shows that, you're having a global presence even helps your domestic sales. Like, we've seen that time and time again. So what happened now over COVID is that people realize they can't rely on just one marketplace, because what happened is there was the restock limits. That was one. And then when one country was having restrictions with Amazon, another country was okay. So like, at one point, France completely shut down, and then Canada was open, and then Canada was closed from like March to almost July. It was absolute madness. But then what ended up happening is we had these sellers that were really, really struggling in the US, and they were like, Pearl, like, what's happening in Australia now is incredible. So Australia, unfortunately, had a lockdown for like combined about 9 months. Like, when you put it all together, and e-commerce was booming, absolutely booming. We have customers that are like in the gaming industry right now and killing it there. But we saw in every single marketplace, slowly, when Amazon was able to, open back up their fulfillment centers, when the restrictions were looser, obviously depending on, what was going on at that time with COVID in the country, we've seen sellers were able to really, really diversify what's going on and make things, much easier for themselves. So we've had a seller that was doing, for example, in Canada, about 10% of what he was doing in the US, which is usually that's usually the typical number, what people do in the Canadian marketplace. And he started doing close to 30%, which is a crazy, crazy number. And he's still holding on to that. And we're going to shows and talking to people, and sellers are telling it to me more and more that they're able to really make up for what they were losing out. Either it was inventory issues, or again, inventory or restock limits, or just their product wasn't moving for whatever reason, and they were able to start diversifying it during COVID. So your question is, what marketplace you would recommend, right? I would recommend right now. The Canadian marketplace is a very, very close second to the US if you want to see what else you could do. Population size, obviously it's way smaller than the US, but it's a very, very easy marketplace to expand to. It's English speaking, it's very similar cultures. People need what we need in Canada. Now it's a very simple process to just get set up. We do something called an NRI number that they have to set up, and we actually can help with that as well. And then there's all they have to do is actually ship it in, and Amazon then takes over, and it's exactly the same model as in the US. Send it into FBA, Amazon's FCs, they take over from there. So Canada is definitely the first recommendation I would make for a seller that's looking to get started. And then the UK and Europe is huge. The reason why I didn't say Europe first is because Europe could be a little bit more complicated when it comes to compliance for certain products. So certain products, meaning to say health and beauty, ingestibles such as like vitamins, they became a little bit tougher, more Europe than the UK. But if somebody wants to just really get, their feet wet and get excitement rolling for the international market, I would say go for the easiest first, and the easiest and where you're going to see quick results as well. So Canada, I would say, would definitely be the first one I would recommend.
That makes sense. Yeah, I know. And then I would say some of the other marketplaces why you might want to wait is if you don't speak those languages, right? You are going to have to pay for PPC and everything in those other marketplaces and get your listing translated in a way that makes sense. So yeah, I think starting with those English speaking marketplaces, especially those that are closest to the ones where you sell, can be helpful. So I like I
want to say that it's funny, but you say about translations, we learned such a good lesson with our gift baskets. So we expanded over to the UK, and it's an English marketplace. What could go wrong, right? And it wasn't moving. Absolutely wasn't moving, and it didn't make sense. We have great reviews, beautiful pictures. It was in those days that you just did 1, 2, and 3 right, and you were good. And it wasn't moving until we realized, somebody pointed it out to us 6 months in, that the word gift baskets is not a word in the dictionary in the UK. They call it hampers. And we made a switch to hampers, and wow, I was okay, welcome to the world. It was incredible. But yeah, it's people think you could just use Google Translate, and no, that's not going to work. You're absolutely right with that.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I even, whenever I do write UK listings, but I'm always very careful about doing that research, finding other listings that are doing well, looking at the keywords they're using, all that kind of stuff to make sure. I was working with a client in Germany the other day. We were checking on his Germany listings, and he wasn't doing so well. And we used Amazon's brand analytics and searched for, a part of the word in German, and learned that he was using a version of it in German that isn't very highly searched. And it was oh, this is why in Germany, this product is not doing as well as it is in France and some of these other countries. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. So why should people consider expanding globally? I mean, you mentioned the one client that you had that did really well in Canada. They started on 10% in Canada. Now they're up to 30, and they're, doing bigger, more and more numbers. I mean, already though, the economy is kind of shaky. It's hard to move goods, so is now a good time to expand globally?
Yeah, so it's the best time. And when you start studying different cultures and you start learning, about how people like to do certain things in different countries, like in Japan, for example, people are super organized, very, very tidy people. So these organizer stuff, these kitchen stuff do so well over there. It's incredible. But when you start learning about, the different cultures, you start realizing that, hey, I have a product right now that I could so easily just expand my business without needing to come up with a brand new line, brand new idea, brand new pictures, brand new everything really. You literally can use the same exact thing for literally just sending another shipment. That's really what it is. And I believe now is the best time, especially since, you know, people are more hesitant to go out. And, you know, even if, you know, things are opening back up, thank God, and things are better, people got used to buying online. Like my grandmother, my 70-year-old grandmother, I remember, you know, the early beginning of COVID, she was struggling and had to order from the groceries. Like she wasn't going to go out and, you know, do grocery shopping. And I told her how to buy from the local grocery. They had an app, they launched an app. And every time, you know, Pearl, how do I do this? And how do I do that? And she was losing it. But guess what? Things are back open. She's vaccinated. She's doing great. And she's still ordering from the grocery on her app. Why bother going in? And so it seems like the world has taken a different direction. So now is the time to go along with that and utilize as much as you can with what you have, because there's so much out there that you're not aware of. And again, it's just about producing a drop more and sending it to another place. So I believe now more than ever is the time. And don't get another reminder, you know, when it comes up that, why did I put my eggs all in one basket? You know, it sounds so cliche, but it's the truth. Like, just expand as much as you can. It's just an easy process to do.
So one of the things that I would really love to know, Pearl, is what should sellers continue or should know before considering moving into other marketplaces about you know, shipping? Any major differences in terms of, you know, instead of going from, you know, majority of people going from China to the US, going say from like China to Australia or China to the UK?
Right. So good question. So there's a few things. So number one, I would say is you want to make sure that whatever you're planning on selling internationally could actually get shipped internationally. So every country has its own book of laws, right? So you want to make sure compliance wise that you know exactly how to ship it, and you're speaking to your shipper that you're going to be using, that they could actually get it in successfully. And if not, what do you need to get? Is it special licensing? Is it special labeling? Find out what exactly it is that's needed. And I would also advise, never start too big. You know, we always have these sellers that are like, oh yeah, I see the listing. It's the, you know, bestseller listing, I'm going to send the full container in. Our specialty is small parcel shipping, but we will still advise you how to balance it out if needed. You know, I'm not going to tell somebody that's selling pillows or you know, comforters to send something by air. It's going to make absolutely no sense. So we will advise you accordingly, but I would still say start small. You want to test out your top, let's say 5 products or top 10 products. If you want to go a little bit bigger, send a couple boxes and see how it goes. So what we typically advise is take inventory you already have based over here in the States, ship it out and see what happens. And then take it from there. But it does take a good 6 months until somebody will see that full result of what's actually happening, until their account, you know, gets the optimization that they need. But yeah, I would say start slow, but before starting anything, definitely make sure compliance wise that you know what you're doing. And then make sure that shipping is affordable to that marketplace that you want to get into. With taxes also, I want to add that in. You want to make sure you're calculating in your duties and taxes. So yeah, get advice on that too.
That leads perfectly into my next question. But before that, I just want to go back to what you were saying. Is that's absolutely such a great point. I remember early on when we expanded it, you know, we got this email that was like, hey, you can have free lightning deals for a year, managers, blah, 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 blah. We're like, oh, cool. All right. So we're going to do UK, Germany, you know, all these ones. And they're like, oh, we'll help you get your listings there. The translations were horrible, et cetera. And all it did was take our focus away from our core business, because now all of a sudden we're managing 5 different marketplaces and 5 different customer service emails and things like that. So I think that's phenomenal advice. The other great advice that you gave was to 80-20 it, right? Like take your, like you said, your top few products and go to the UK and just test it, just to dip your toes and see how the process is a little different, kind of make sure that you have enough staff, or you're able, if you're, you know, a 1 or 2 man show, to be able to handle that extra work. So I think those are all great points. The other thing is Amy and I did this course called Sourcing Small like a long time ago, and that whole thing was all about one of the most successful tactics I still to this day see is, doing small batch orders, 10 to 100, something like that, depending on size, cost, etc. Testing the product, seeing if it's successful, then going back and reordering larger amounts. You can even create a new listing, so I think that's an absolute phenomenal point. Now, rolling into my next question, which you kind of mentioned a little bit, what are some differences in shipping to other marketplaces in terms of prep? So, like labeling, double, liquids, double wrapped, any major differences in some of the main marketplaces that may be something to know about?
Great question. And to your question, basically just to prove how easy it is, it's literally the same exact process. So you could literally have that same UPS driver that's picking up your boxes to go domestically here in the US to, let's say, I don't know, Illinois or to California. That same driver could take boxes to go to the UK or to the Canadian marketplaces. So it's literally just slapping on an FBA label and a shipping label. That's how straightforward and simple it is. And yeah, it doesn't need any special, packaging or whatever. If it's good enough to go domestically here, it's going to go that way as well. It's going by air. It's super fast. It's there in 2-3 days. So it's not like it's going to be banging around for like a while. So it's the way you're packing it here would be sufficient enough.
Awesome. So the other thing that a lot of people probably don't know about is certain marketplaces have these kind of like bonuses or like from the government. So these like, how to lure you into their market. So I think it's like Japan is like a year or 2 years and $80,000 before you pay any taxes, something like that. Can you go over like maybe a few of I think Australia might be similar, some of the marketplaces that maybe have this like added bonus that people may not know about?
Yeah, so you're right. The threshold is around, $80,000 for both of the marketplaces. I believe very similar for the UAE marketplace where you don't have to file taxes. I'm not a tax professional, I'll be honest. So like I can't advise the exact numbers, but yes, they do make it very enticing where you don't have to be fully VAT set up, or even if you are set up, let's say with a basic VAT number, let's say to ship in, you don't need to file. For Canada, the number's around 30,000. So it's, very, very fast that you're going to get there. I mean, that's what I wish for everybody anyway. So they would have to file fairly quickly, but to get started, it's just about setting up the NRI number for, let's say, Canada, or the VAT number, let's say for the UK. But a marketplace like Singapore, they could actually start shipping tomorrow. There's no setup needed, and the same for UAE. So yeah, it's so easy. And there's most sellers get reached out to by Amazon reps, and they reach a certain threshold and they'll push you and try to get you to get started. And we actually have a very close working relationship with those reps because they'll send those clients that they introduce or try to get them to expand to us. And then we'll take over. So the point is that there's such a streamlined process for all this. It's just about knowing what to do. So like, if I'm going to list it for you, it's going to be number one, compliance, making sure you got that done. And if not, making sure you get the right licensing, the right labeling done. Every country has its thing. And then, of course, making sure it's affordable, the shipping, and then figuring out how you want to get it shipped in ultimately. And of course, that shipping person, make sure they can act as your importer and do the customs clearance.
Awesome. Do you think is there still enough time to, expand into some of these marketplaces, kind of all since we're already in Q4?
Yes. The short answer is yes, absolutely. Singapore, they could do that tomorrow as long as the listings are up. It's an English marketplace. And just let me mention, they're extremely wealthy there. So they're buying things that people are selling in the US for half the price, literally. So, people are looking for another alternative where it's not so saturated. They could sell it with less competition. And also the markups, the margins are way, way higher. So when I'm telling you that someone's doing, let's say, 30% of what they're doing in the US and Canada, have in mind his margins might be very similar to what he's doing in the US. He's not competing with hundreds and hundreds of other sellers in his category. Might I say thousands? I don't know. You guys are the Amazon people, but there's way more people than just hundreds. But there's just so much more opportunity in a marketplace where there's less competition.
Yeah, and something kind of a little hack, simple hack is the search bar, right? You could pull up all these various marketplaces and put in maybe your top 3 keywords and see how many results pop out, right?
Wow.
And that's a really good way to gauge, if you're selling horse shampoo, and that's pretty niche. The United Arab Emirates, like you said, people there have tons of money. Australia, people are, fairly wealthy country. So, like you said, you might be selling that horse shampoo for $50 here, but there you can maybe triple or even more because nobody else offers it, or maybe 5 people offer it and they don't know what they're doing. And, I always laugh. I always pick on the brand Stanley Tools, right? Like if you ever go to I don't know if I haven't looked at them lately, but if you ever go to their Amazon page, it's like 4-in-1 screwdriver, or like, it's like the most basic. You're like, okay, like somebody who's not an Amazon person put all of these things up and like they just pretty much like walked away from it, right? Like it's like they could care less.
Yeah.
So that's where the smaller sellers have an advantage against those big brands, is to kind of be a little more nimble and more focused, more 80-20, right? Like just taking a few products that you can make some good money on and tackling that. Maybe once you get a foothold in that marketplace, get a little brand recognition, then you can start bringing in more of your catalog or expand at different types of products. So I think that's a great point. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see? You kind of mentioned a little bit about like, trying to maybe do too many marketplaces at once, too many products at once. Any other major mistakes that people make when expanding into these other marketplaces?
Yeah, great question. So the reason why we're in business is because Amazon actually does not provide shipping internationally to these marketplaces. The reason being is because there are certain parts of it, there's certain red tape that they don't want to get involved with. Some of those things are customs, and some of those things are acting as importer of records and things like that. So the mistakes you want to avoid, number one, I would say, is making sure when you're shipping into Amazon, you're actually billing all the duties and taxes to yourself, you as the shipper. Or if you're using a freight forwarder, make sure it gets billed to them. Whatever agreement you make up, whatever it is, make sure it's not billed to the receiver, which is Amazon in this case. The reason why people make this mistake is because typically that's how shipping is done. When you're shipping to someone internationally, usually they're the ones that are going to be paying for the taxes when it arrives to their door. So I don't know if you ever received something internationally, you got a call from DHL or UPS and say, hi, I have a package for you. There's this and this due before delivery. You want to pay with a credit card, or you want to pay with a check by the door. I don't weird, but they still take check by the door. But the bottom line is they won't deliver it without that. Now, if Amazon's going to get such a phone call, look, we have some packages to deliver to your FC, and in order for us to deliver, you need to pay, your shipment's going to get refused. So that's the biggest mistake you want to avoid. You want to make sure that all the taxes are billed to yourself. Another thing you want to make sure is that you're the importer on record, or importer of record. Everybody's going to call it something else, but basically it's the person that's responsible for the security and the clearance of your shipment. So the shipping carrier or customs wants to make sure that whatever is in this package, I could call somebody up and say, hey, Amy, hey, Andy, what's in this package? We just want to make sure that like you're not shipping drugs or explosives. Obviously, it's not so often that they'll call you up, but if the importer is listed as Amazon, that's a huge red flag for them. And again, it's usually always the receiver that's the importer, because it needs to be someone that's in the forwarding country that it's being delivered to. So these are very, very basic things that a lot of sellers mess up with the first shipment that they do, and then they end up giving up. The reason why they end up messing up is because nobody's advising them otherwise. When you call UPS or DHL or FedEx, they are just a shipping company. They're not e-commerce based or Amazon based. They're not savvy with these rules. They don't know how to advise you on these things. And every rep that you're going to call is going to tell you something else. So you're going to end up, they're going to tell you the way normally it works is, the receiver should be all these things. So that's when you want to make sure you're using somebody that's familiar with these things, knows how to advise you. But if you are working with the carriers directly, make sure that you know this in advance and you don't make any of these mistakes. I should mention one more thing. You do want to plan on returns. Returns, Amazon, the same way they don't provide shipping internationally, they're not going to provide you with an international returns option, because normally returns is shipped back domestically in the country that you're in. So you want to make sure you're working with a provider that has a warehouse location that you can ship it to in the country that you're selling in, and then they could ship it back to you or work out some other arrangement. And we actually offer that service as well.
That's awesome advice. The other great advice there could be, and this could work, both ways is, find somebody in the UK on a Facebook group for Amazon or something and say, hey, do you want to be my person in the UK to help me with my business, and I'll return the favor in the US. That I've seen people do that, and that's, that helps a lot. So that's something to think about. Something else I'm curious about is, what level, if somebody's just starting out, this may not be right for them. So kind of at what level of sales do you think, people should really start thinking about expanding into these other marketplaces? Or do you think, if you're new off the, if you're just starting today, if you were starting today, would you just do, US and one other? Would you just do US till you get it down? Like kind of what would be your guidance there in terms of expanding globally, for a minimum, amount of sales or experience?
So if I were starting out today, I definitely would not go internationally right away. I do want to feel like I did everything in every single way, or I met every channel that I can within the opportunity of, let's say, the US. And then I could take a step back and say, okay, I feel like I'm ready. I would say based on, everything that you could possibly do, you're the professional, let's say with like PPC, pictures, everything you could possibly think of, I've done that. If you feel like you've done all that and you're ready to move on, then so be it. But typically it would be a seller that has done, at least $1 million a year in sales that would look at the international market, unless, they're in a very, very small, niche over here in the US, or a very saturated niche. And they're like, it's not working here, let me look at other marketplaces. Or it could be somebody that's sending things that are very seasonal into Amazon, and they could send it into Australia, for example, where the seasons are in the opposite way. And, they missed the season here, and they could say, okay, great, now let's take the opportunity and send it down to Australia, where we might be able to sell out and we might have a successful season in the end. So there's a couple ways of looking at it, but overall, I would definitely advise somebody that feels like they've maximized their full potential in, let's say, the first market that they've gone into, to then take the next step. And, otherwise they're going to repeat the same mistakes in the other marketplace. That's usually what we see.
I love it. So kind of on that same note, any processes or anything else that people should have in place before they start going to the international markets?
Any processes, they have to have their inventory fully solid. They need to have inventory to be able to send. Otherwise, they're going to run out of the US. And then what do they have to gain if there's one marketplace that has and one that doesn't? You want to make sure you have enough inventory that every marketplace should have exactly what they need. That's the whole point of going internationally, to sell more, and not just like one marketplace gets, special attention over the other, unless their profit margins are better in another marketplace, and they might choose to do that. Like, there are a lot of people that are low in inventory now. So definitely I would say that you want to make sure your inventory is fully in check.
Sorry, I was muted. Like, where's the mute button? What's going on here?
Amy, that was like that's like you just did what I normally do. So I'm happy to see that I'm not the only one.
I love that.
Zoomisms. I feel like Zoom is very soon going to have a lot of their own kind of words, just like some of these other platforms do. So what about when it comes to shipping? Is there any benefit, like, for example, in Canada, is there any benefit to starting with FBM instead of doing FBA?
It's a good question. So when you are doing FBM, we do find the conversion between FBM and FBA is about 80%. So it's a great way to start. And if you want to do FBM, I would highly recommend doing the NARF program. And the NARF program was clearly designed for people just to get like a little taste of what the international marketplace could do for you. And then what Amazon will do is they'll try to push you as much as possible to get into FBA. Again, if you're eligible, if you reach a certain market, it's usually 1 million or 1.5 million a year in sales, and they'll reach out to you. But that was the whole point of the NARF program, to try to get you to do FBA, because clearly we've seen sellers that the minute they convert, they're doing close to 80% better. So there is something to be said if you want to try it out. Definitely a safer approach, but it's usually more costly. And remember, the duties and taxes, you're responsible to pay for that. So if you're sending in something that's very high value, right? A $70, $80, $100 item, you are responsible for the taxes, and you're paying taxes based off what the customer purchased it for, because it's a sold item. Versus if you're doing FBA, you're sending it into Amazon and the product is not considered sold yet. You could put on the customs invoice whatever your cost is, and taxes are significantly lower based on that, right? So you have to, do the math and figure out what works for you. But it's usually just like a safe play to say, let's do FBM, let's figure it out. And if you want to do the bulk and you want to see the really, really good results, it's usually what happens when you're doing, FBA. It's just how their algorithm is set up. So yeah, we've
I mean, it makes more sense to send products in bulk to another country instead of sending them one by one, as you mentioned, with taxes and everything else. I mean, I was looking to ship one of my products to Australia because somebody wanted it there, and it was like $60 to ship one product to Australia. Wow. Versus if I ship in bulk to FBA Australia, right, then I'm going to pay a lot less, especially if I'm shipping from my supplier. I think where you can get in trouble is if you are shipping it to the US and then you're paying again to ship it to the next country. You're paying those fees over and over again. So I think we've had other folks on the show talking about shipping from into international marketplaces as well. And I think one of the main things to keep in mind, like you said, Pearl, is just streamlining that. Like, how can you make sure that you're minimizing your costs and making it worth it? But to just dip your toe and see if that other marketplace, if you're going to make any sales there, it's like me. I know there's demand in other countries for my products because I'm always getting messages on Facebook and stuff of people living in other countries saying, do you ship here? So that's a good indicator that my products are needed in other countries. And I only sell them in the US right now. So
hey, mate.
I know.
I'm looking out for you. But it's the best feeling when these people reach out to you internationally. Do you offer shipping, or do you sell your product?
I do.
Such a good feeling. I love
our website, we now ship to Canada and a few other countries, but it's very expensive comparatively to if we had those logistics set up. So yeah, it would be a good thing to expand, but it's a lot of extra overhead. So people have to really think about overhead. You're now managing PPC in all these different countries. You're now managing your listings in all these different countries. So for us, it just hasn't made enough sense. We just don't have the bandwidth to expand yet. But something to keep in mind. I've learned a lot today listening to you talk about shipping into these other countries. So that's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, we usually shift over to the business side of our guests, and we like to talk about what is the toughest barrier that you've had to overcome being a leader in this business, and how did you do it?
Oof, that's a good question. That's like a fully loaded question. Let me think about that. Being a leader, let me tell you, it's not easy. People look at it and say, oh, it must be, the best feeling. It's so great. It's so, all the right adjectives to that. But the reality is, though, that it's a lot of pressure to, always come in with a smile. Business is not always as great. We've been hit very, very hard during the whole restock limit thing. Our business went down considerably when we weren't able to ship in, and we weren't going to let go of people. We didn't want to do that. We love our employees, and we know how much is on the line for them just as much as us. So coming in with a smile every day, because the way you are ends up trickling down to everybody else, is something that I've learned very, very early on. The fact that I was able to start from entry level, literally, to where I am right now has taught me so much about people, and how it feels to feel appreciated and to hear a good word. And even that smile on the face. And I never realized how it affects people when I just walked in and I didn't say good morning because I might have been on the phone or just busy, or again, it's been a hard day. And people take it personally. So we have to be so mindful when we are in a leadership position of how many people's lives we actually affect every single day. And, that's something that I've learned. And then, more technical aspect is, different processes. So we actually implemented a process in our business called the Eos System. I don't know if you're familiar with that. If you go look it up, you're familiar, you're nodding your head. Cool. The entrepreneurial operating system. And that has been a game changer for us. So basically, the way it essentially works is that we have a structure, the way we have meetings, we have a structure on how we do, let's say, reporting. Basically, we each have something called a scorecard. Sounds so elementary, but it's literally the best thing. So many things, if you don't talk about it, goes like unseen. Nobody knows what you actually did, right? So we have the scorecard where literally we have, let's say, 5 to 10 things listed, and of our responsibilities, let's say for myself, that I meet every single person on my team every single week. And I would have to score myself from 1 through 10. Or if I know, let's say I have 8 people in my executive team, I would have to score myself from 1 through 8. How many people did I meet? Or for example, one, like I mentioned, the whole greeting thing, right? I wanted to fix that. So I added that onto my scorecard. Percentage. Did I greet everybody every single day? And by what percentage? So we end up scoring each other. And guess what? We actually are in a meeting once a week, and it's called a level 10 meeting, where there's also a format and how that goes. So we start off with state of mind. We share how we're feeling, everything out of the way in case you had a bad night's sleep or something happened that morning with one of your kids. Everybody knows this is what's happening and this is why I'm behaving the way I'm behaving. And that's it. It's out there. So we start off with that, and then we each share our scorecards. And it's not about, okay, you were good or you were not good. It was just for yourself to share with everybody else. How did my week go? This is where I want to improve. This is what I want to get better at, or this is where I was super at, and everybody's going to, cheer me on. So that's, something that we do. And that really, really helped our business, because what ended up happening is too many people were sitting on everybody else's seats, or just was a mumble jumble. So right now, working through the system, everybody has their seat, their capacity, and everybody's happier than they ever were. So yeah, the Eos system, everybody should check it out. And if anybody has any questions, they could feel free to reach out to me, because I am in love with that system. It's working really well for us.
I love it. That's so cool. So our next question is, what books, podcasts, etc., are you reading, or what's keeping you motivated? And maybe you can recommend the book that,
I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. Books. Okay. So you ever heard of Patrick Lencioni? Okay.
No,
you should read his books. Patrick Lencioni. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Basically, he writes business books, but every business book that he writes is based on a fable. So it's not like this boring thing where you keep nodding off because, like, okay, I'll take notes and I'm just going to keep rereading the same page again and again because, like, it's so boring. I literally read his books in one standing. So he's actually, a coach for businesses, and he writes these books based on different business practices that he's teaching you. And instead of, giving you a checklist of like, do this and this and this, he bases it on a company and how they learned different things based on the situation they were in. And it's fascinating. So he has books on meetings, books on, 5 rules of, let's say, leadership.
Yeah, he's got a bunch. Yeah, I just dropped the link in the chat. He's got quite a few. Yeah.
So he has like a ton of books. The guy is incredible. Podcasts. I love Oprah Winfrey. It's so not related to business really, but it is related to business because she teaches you so much about people and how people are and how people react to different situations. That's what I'm listening to right now. Actually, the book that I'm reading now, this very moment, is Barack Obama's book. I find the guy fascinating, you know, just he made it through quite a bit of challenges to where he got to. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Very good. I love it. Okay. Well, last but not least, how can people get in contact with you?
So they can reach out to me by email, pa@firstchoiceship.com or pearl@firstchoiceship.com. And I would love to help them expand their businesses or talk EOS or talk about Patrick Lencioni, because those are some of the best things that I love.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Pearl, for being here. And thank you everyone for being here as well. We're about to hit stop on the live stream and stop on the recording, and we're going to hang out here and see if anybody has any other questions before we head out for the week. But I just want to thank everyone that's out there for listening every week. I want to thank our regulars who come in here every week in this Zoom chat, and they're here with us in the Zoom meeting. I love it. We love it. And thank you everyone for rating, reviewing, subscribing to our podcast. This is and I know Andy's favorite thing to do every week. It's our chance to just, number one, give back. Number two, learn great things. And number three, meet great people like our guests and all of you who come along for the ride. So thank you all so much. And we will see you guys next week on the Seller Roundtable.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.